So First Basket with this latest episode was a banger, and as you can tell, my voice is kinda shot again. Honestly, I feel amazing. My tonsillitis is pretty much gone in terms of the painful aspects. It's just, bacterial infections, still losing voice, so it's just gonna be around for probably another week or two off and on, so there's no point in waiting to talk about Fruits Basket, especially if it's as amazing of an episode such as this. I do want to mention for the foreseeable future, most likely the Fruits Basket reviews are going to be coming out on Tuesdays rather than the Mondays just because of my schedule, so just wanted to throw that out there. But let's talk about what I would honestly say is the absolute best episode that the anime has seen to date, and I can tell this is just the tipping point, the starting point. It's gonna get pretty wild very quickly, but honestly, as Kyo being one of my all-time favorite Fruits Basket characters, to have an episode dedicated to him and his struggle, seeing how he connects with Tohru's mother and Tohru from the past, and just the idea that he blames himself for his mother's death, and just everything surrounding him and Akito, and just Tohru wanting him to go and be happy, like, oh, he's being accepted finally by the Zodiac family, but it's honestly worse than any hell and torture you could possibly imagine, especially considering that if he doesn't beat Yuki, he's going to be confined and he's literally just going to be a laughingstock for someone who claims to love him but washes their hands when they're no longer in the room because they consider him disgusting. And the fact that the episode ends on such a sweet note, but it's honestly bittersweet that he just wants to spend his remaining time with the girl that he loves. And to have that confirmation, to have him admit that he does love her, it's honestly the icing on the very bittersweet cake, but still, I hold on to the hope that Fruits Basket will have a brighter and optimistic outcome for someone who's been as tortured as him, but as tortured as many of these characters have been. I think what makes this episode so remarkable is the fact that it felt so structured and very isolated on Kyo's story in general. The fact that you have these shots that are just so lonely and so isolated with Tohru just being alone, similar to New Year's, and how everyone and their mother knows, she's probably sad that he's going, but she's also sacrificing her own happiness because she believes this is good for them. Go, be with your family, be with the people. Oh, you're finally being accepted. You always hated yourself, but you're being accepted, you're being summoned. But she doesn't know just how bad that summoning actually is. And the fact that you have characters such as Yuki, who just see everything happening being like, don't be an idiot, don't put her in danger, don't do anything that's going to cause you or her harm, literally swallow your pride. But when you're going up against someone who, honestly, is one of the most intriguing antagonists I have seen in the anime medium in quite some time, it's very hard to keep your composure, especially when you have people saying, you're the reason your mother killed herself. You are a horrible monster, and the person that you apparently love is also a monster, which some of the stuff she said about Tohru is true. Not the monster part, but the fact that she literally is too perfect on a surface level. But as we know, she is far from that, which is why Kyo throws it back in Akito's face, being like, you weren't there, you didn't see how scared she was when she saw my true form. I really like how it was literally, it kind of reminds me in a lot of ways of the ReZero episode, without going into spoilers, where Rem and Subaru are pretty much standing in one location, and it's a back and forth conversation. That's most of the episode. And it reminded me of that because the best episodes, the best story hooks can be, you are in the most boring location. You're literally standing in a room, and most of the episode is just that room, but the dialogue, the backstory, the flashbacks, it makes it feel so compelling, as if you're watching drama unfold that has been naturally built up, and that's why you can't look away, as painful as it may be. We're witnessing so much heartache from the past. We're watching bloody scenes unfold. We're watching someone who gets pleasure in tormenting a tortured soul, who is excited to lock them up as an animal, and the only person that will be able to be seen by them is Akito. And Akito is a character that just, I am so intrigued by, because the more I see with this persona, the more it just screams lonely. It screams someone who was so lonely at a young age that most likely is scared to not have everyone just bow to them, to just say you are my servant and I am the master. It feels to me, whatever the curse for Akito is, it's based around loneliness and just fear of being alone. So I'm really excited to see what that story will be, because now we know what all the Zodiacs are at this point in time. So now that that's all been established, I'm wondering when we'll see more of this and that, and what it will do for these characters, because everyone is scheming. Not everyone per se, but a lot of the characters are scheming, of course. You got Shigure, you got Akito. It feels like a lot of people are doing things for their own self-benefit, but in terms of characters like Kyo, he loves this girl, and clearly she has feelings for him. Whether she feels the same romantic feelings or not as Kyo remains to be seen until she admits to it, even if we can speculate and imply that she does. It's really nice to see that there is this mutual connection, at the very least family and friendship. So it's even though there can be these selfish desires, even if me putting myself around her could potentially raise Agito's wrath, I'll be careful, but I just want to spend every last minute that I have, rather than being afraid and alone, growing and looking at my master, understanding that what he's been saying is there is going to be people who will push me down, but there's always going to be others that will hold me back up. And the most important person to me right now is, of course, his father figure, and of course, Tohru. And the fact that they love him and support him, it makes all that pain from the episode, it's there, but it's not the focus, it's the brighter future. And I love the difference and contrast with how they directed this episode, where a lot of it is dark and gloomy, a lot of it is painful and isolated, it's lonely and depressing. And as you're building up to basically find Tohru, it's a sunset scene, but it's still a dimly lit room until you find her on the beach, and it's romantic lighting bursting through, as if his heart and mind has once again been opened, as if, who cares about this person? Be yourself and be proud of who you are. It's really interesting with how they directed this scene. There's a lot of amazing directing choices in this episode, from the way they present Tohru as smiling but in very lonely and empty shots, to just the dark and brutal and just, it's horrifying lighting, and just the pain of the slapping and just the menacing faces. Akito, I gotta give props to just how they can detail this character. You're intrigued, but you understand why these characters bow to their every word, because you are fearful of their wrath. I've always said it, Akito is a scummy character, but at the same time, we don't know what led them to be this way. We don't know if it's a curse that could be changed and potentially turn them into a better person that they can amend for their mistakes, or if they are too far gone. But at the very least, you're glad you have this character in this show. If Akito wasn't part of Fruits Basket, it wouldn't be half as compelling as it currently is. The characters are great, but a big reason why they're so compelling is because they've been broken so much, and without Akito, most of the characters wouldn't be nearly as broken as they currently are. Yes, there would still be pain, but not as much, especially when you have a character who keeps bringing it up that, hey, your mother killed herself, and it's because of you. That's why she's dead. You should be ashamed. If you didn't have that constant reminder, Kyo wouldn't be nearly as broken. He would just be happy around Tohru, and there'd be no real conflict. It'd be more of a romance rather than a drama, and honestly thriller at certain points in time, and it's really interesting. I just love the flow to it. I love how you're building up from one location, and you're just so happy, and you're like, oh, he's been summoned, and it just feels like there's a lot of hostility, there's a lot of drama. You have characters like Yuki basically bending the knee, but he sees this is what needs to happen to keep people safe, especially Tohru, and he doesn't want to put her in harm's way because he defies the head of the family. And then you have characters like Kyo who are ready to punch and slap, but then really he's the one getting beat up because he can't talk back. It's so brutal, it's so horrifying, but everything that we've experienced up to this point in Fruits Basket, it feels, and I say this in a weird way, it feels like a reward, as if all the pain that we've either heard about or slightly seen, it felt like it came crashing down like an isekai truck ready to send us off to a new world. But luckily we survived that car crash, and we get to continue in this one and hopefully fix a lot of the mistakes that have been there. There's still obviously a hell of a long way to go, but it doesn't feel like it's the end. It doesn't feel like it's hopeless, and it did feel very hopeless for a long time. The fact that, it was actually smart of Kyo to say, I don't love her, I hate her, and things like that, because you want to say that, and it's honestly what Yuki most likely wanted, to be smart about your words, because he knows how he feels, because he's still kind of considering his own feelings for Tohru, but you don't want to tell the head of the family, screw you, I love her, I'll do what I want. We've seen what happens when romance is thrown in Akito's face, saying we will do what we want. It gets bloody very fast. So this was honestly the smartest move. It's just very thankful that Tohru didn't have to hear that, because she would have been heartbroken even if she understood later. So it's really interesting how the characters are being smart even if they do lash out emotionally, and it's really great to see how it does have a more optimistic outcome where, yes, it's sad that apparently he's going to be locked up, because how is he going to beat Yuki unless Yuki forfeits or something like that, which honestly may be a potential route where, depending on how the relationship with these three grows, obviously I'm talking about Yuki, Tohru, as well as Kyo, maybe there would be a reason for him to say, oh, he actually beat me, so he wouldn't have to be locked up in a cage. Or potentially it could be something with Tohru, or just Kyo fighting back, or something like that. It's interesting how a character like Kyo, who's so gung-ho, ready to punch and kick, can get slapped around because he is so terrified at the person in front of him, and he doesn't have that support that can really bring him back up, especially when all the things that he hates about himself constantly gets thrown in his face, even if he's so happy around these characters. This episode was just emotionally heartbreaking, but it was honestly surprisingly optimistic, with a very bittersweet outcome towards the end of the episode. And that's what I love about Fruits Basket. It feels like everything we love about the show, the character relationships, they feel like they progress, they naturally bond, and that's why slower moments where they're playing on the beach we appreciate, because you know things like this are going to happen, and once the truck comes crashing, it's just going to get repaired and keep crashing towards us. So we want to appreciate the slower times, the happy times, the cooking, the smiles while we can, because you don't know how long it's going to be until the next one. Remarkable episode, best episode without a doubt in my mind. Obviously, I'm a little biased because I love my Kyo and Tohru, but at the same time, it feels like on a directing level, it was one of the highest produced and most visually compelling episodes for just standing around. But as I said with that ReZero comparison, sometimes the best episodes are just standing around. You can think of Evangelion, where those two characters are just in an elevator in dead silence, but because of the thematics and just like what happened with the story, is one of the most compelling scenes in anime. Sometimes simplicity is more complex than complexity, and I love what they did with this episode. But as always, let me know your thoughts and opinions on what I think is the best episode, especially with just how well the voice actors went in. Gotta give props to Akito. Definitely hits it out of the park with that voice acting, but definitely let me know your feelings down below. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like, show your support, remember to hit that subscribe button if you happen to be new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.